Hi there, my name is David Sneed, and I'm a Calvary Chapel missionary and filmmaker in Lviv, Ukraine. My wife and I serve in an indigenous Ukrainian Baptist church here. If you are coming from a Calvary Chapel background, this video may or may not confuse you, because Calvary Chapel churches normally have their plan for the year of sermons as just going from Genesis to Revelation. Not always in a year, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, but that's their plan, is to go from Genesis to Revelation. At our church, we don't do that. We teach books of the Bible, individual verse-like sermons, and topical. I made this plan that I'm going to be talking about as a suggestion to our preaching team and to our pastor. We have 4 guys that rotate through our preaching team. But we do exegetical preaching, which when you talk about having a topic or a topical sermon, some people think of eisegesis, which means basically taking a topic and sticking it into the Bible. No, what we do is we take, verses and scripture as our foundation, and we interpret that into the sermons. So if your church is anything like ours, this video may be a blessing for you. And I'm going to talk about how to make a plan of sermons for an entire year. The year 2018 has 52 Sundays, so we're going to put a sermon topic for every single Sunday this year. Now, before we do that, though, there's some of you that may say, well, what about following the Spirit, David? I mean, wouldn't you want to just follow the Spirit with whatever topic that He gives you for that week? And my answer is, can't the Holy Spirit guide you through planning something? If He can guide you to plan through the week for one sermon, couldn't He guide you to plan through the month for a year of sermons? Now, because of that, the first step to this process is obviously prayer. You do a lot of praying, you think about what the needs are for your particular congregation. So here's my basic method for this year. First, like I said, you always pray. You pray at the beginning, the middle, the end. You pray through this process. The next step that you want to take is gathering information. When do the holidays happen? What needs are happening in the country, in the city that you're in? What cultural issues are going on this year? Now, the city of Lviv celebrates a lot of holidays, particularly a lot of religious holidays. And so I like to take those and turn them into basically sermon topics and gospel presentations. So as I'm gathering that information, I figure out which holidays that I want to preach on. The next thing is I figure out which books of the Bible that I want to preach on. Does this book deal with different things that the church is dealing with? Is there something that my city, my region, my country is facing? That kind of thing. This process is not applicable only to Ukraine, obviously. So once you figure out which holidays you want to preach on and then which books of the Bible you want to preach on, the next step is to think about which topics would be useful to the church at different times in the year. For instance, we have a summer camp every year in about mid or early August. And one thing that I think would be super beneficial is to do a sermon series on the youth of the Bible. The first sermon that I would do in that series is from Luke chapter 2, from verse 41 to 52. I'm looking at it on my computer right here. About Jesus as our main example as a youth. Some other youth that I would cover are Esther, Daniel, and the last one would be Timothy, actually, because the sermon series that I would want to do after the youth of the Bible is 1 Timothy. And one of the reasons why we would go through 1 Timothy is because that deals with issues about leadership. And one of the things that our church is going through and working on is our church leadership. So it all just kind of flows together. Some of the holidays that I would want to preach on are like Den Sobornosti, or Den Jednosti, which is basically translated into the Day of Unity of Ukraine. And so we would talk about what Christian unity looks like. Another holiday is Valentine's Day. You could have a marriage counselor come in or somebody come in and preach on what a biblical marriage is supposed to look like, and then also offer help to people that are struggling with that. Another holiday is Den Zhinok, or like Women's Day, which is an old Soviet holiday, which Ukraine is kind of phasing out, at least in this city, I think. But it's also a great opportunity to talk about how Jesus honored women in the Bible, how He is our example in that, and how we are supposed to honor women today. Then you have Independence Day, and we can talk about what real freedom is. You have Students' Day, and you could invite a student to come and preach. And then Den ZSU, which is Armed Forces Day. And I would like to invite a chaplain to come to our church and preach just, on basically whatever they would want to preach on, give us an update on how everything is on the front and what needs they have there, take a love offering for their ministry, and then also start that day or a couple weeks before on a project to bless the soldiers that are basically giving their lives for our freedom right now. So holidays, topics, and all that kind of stuff, right? There are 16 holidays that I think would be good for a sermon. And then after that leaves 36 other Sundays. So then after the holidays, we have a different sermon series, which there are different types. One is going through a book, one is going through a topic, and that kind of thing. And they're usually leading up to or springboarding off of either a holiday or a one-off topical sermon or something like that. One of the cool series that the pastor and I were talking about and that we want to do this year is why would I want to do that? We call it Навіщо in Ukrainian. And so the first sermon would be something like, why would I want to go to church? The next one would be, why do I want to sing in church? Why would I want to tithe in church? Why do we take communion? Then we have sermon series on the Bible, and I've already talked about 1 Timothy. Then we have Hebrews and Genesis and a couple of others. Genesis is one of those leading up to something where we have a holiday here called Family Day, and Genesis talks about the family of God. So you have Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and their completely messed up family, and you show the gospel through those families, and then you come to Family Day and say, hey, it's okay if your family is crazy and messed up. God still loves you. Jesus died for you. So when you take all the sermon series that we have and the holidays and everything, that only leaves 5 Sundays left. So we put sermons in there that are actually really important, like love one another, inductive Bible study, the importance of prayer. I put 2 more in there, though, that are a little bit unorthodox. One is, why does God love holidays? That one's in December, and I want to talk about the biblical holidays, the Jewish holidays, and then also all of these religious holidays that we have in Lviv, which are both from Roman Catholic, Greek Catholic, and Orthodox tradition all together. And then the last one is, what are you expecting for next year? This one talks about planning and vision and having an intentional life. Sometimes I think that people are scared of planning because they don't want to change their plans. They don't want to be disappointed or something like that. Plan in pencil. We are flexible. That is imperative. That is essential. That's foundational to planning anything. This is life, Think about the best generals in history. They always planned. They always prepared. They always drilled, but they planned in pencil. They were flexible. Of course, the battlefield, crazy explosions, and you have to change your plans. The plan is to change your plans, and that is how this sermon plan is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more vlogs about missionary life in Ukraine, please subscribe. Don't forget to like, share, and comment below about what you would like to see next about missionary life in Ukraine, about Eastern Europe, about Ukrainian language, or whatever else you'd like to talk about. Thanks a lot for watching. God bless you guys.